even in short time development, not only the long-term development is really, really cool. We also just get a ton of meta coming straight through here. We also have the Wukong for Shadow, which I know we were highlighting the Wukong for Shun earlier, but I think the Wukong for Shadow is actually pretty huge, especially with the connection in Angel on the Ahri, but the Rel Maokai locked in. You have so much zone control around these objectives, and Alistar might try to be an answer to that, but I don't know if it's enough.
I believe at one point when I was casting, the Alistar had a 100% win rate up against Rel until I believe it was an EDG series where Mako unfortunately not really doing as much on the Alistar and kind of ruined that win rate. But we'll have to wait and see because we have 80 carries and top laners still up and available. But Kai'Sa and Varus, something that most likely will be taken away, especially if you look at BLG's composition. They would love to have a long range poking 80 carry that can work alongside Yagao. We've also seen champions like the Ashe do really well, where it does play setup and it makes Yagao the main character for this game one.
That could be an important ticket to book for BLG as well, but I do specifically like the Kai'Sa pick. I know over the last couple of weeks we've had a lot of conversations about Kai'Sa, a lot of the community sentiment about Kai'Sa, where the win rate's awful, why are you still picking these things? But consistently, we still see the Kai'Sa also pull through and find a lot of big moments. But it is full on bot lane focus here in the second phase as we get the Varus and that Ziggs as well.
With both Varus and Ziggs gone, I wouldn't be surprised if BLG default to something like the Affiliates because that's two big counters for Elk to take on. But the last position is obviously going to be saved for Invincible in that top lane, looking for the counter. And I'm really excited to see because Bin, we often see him play champions like the Jax and the Gwen, so very aggressive, but what is this going to be his approach? We don't know just quite yet as the Ashe gets taken away by Photic.
Gives you a little bit of vision for yourself, a little bit of utility for yourself. It also takes away some of the tools that BLG were searching for, right? You give so much utility over to an already very stranglehold composition around objectives. It's going to get even worse for you. But BLG want to put a little bit of emphasis on this bot lane. Do get the Aphelios for Elk. That's tried and true classic. We've seen this man destroy games on time and time again.
It's so weird to me to think that Cassante's priority has dropped so much that it's pretty much lasted until the very last pick for both BLG and NIP. But nowadays we do have Renekton as a blind that can also do relatively well into the Cassante, especially in that early game, bouncing off Shun, and how On has this great setup within the Maokai On and Rel in this game one. So Invincible, just lock into Cassante, although you should be slightly losing up against the Renekton in that early game. As long as you get that Thornmail online, the laning phase and the team fights would be relatively Cassante favored. But now the team compositions have been locked in. BLG having the Aphelios and the Jace for the late game scaling, but so much frontline and setup to work off. But looking at NIP, they need to play with picks, they need to play with Photic's arrows and Angel's charms to really get these long range AD carries out of the team fight.
They have to. I think the way that we've seen this approach, I want to go back to our earlier conversation of wanting NIP to try to attack BLG a little bit. I do like that Invincible has the Cassante. I think you have some things to work through there. But I also where Shadow and a lot of this early aggressiveness comes to play. We got a banger to kick off this Super Saturday, and it starts right here. Ninjas in Pyjamas versus Bilibili Gaming, as see if NIP's home can be that difference as we let those gyos ring for game one. Still need a little time to wake up, all right, Kitty? Still need a little time to wake up.
Yeah, we'll give them another game. It's only game one. Players aren't woken up. Audience isn't woken up as it is relatively early, only being 3 p.m. in China. We have a bit of an aggressive invade from the side of NIP, but not getting any vision down while Yagao just walks away with first strike.
Got a little dub right there. Also, love that Shun is going first strike on the Maokai. I don't feel like that's something we see very often either.
Yeah, because Shun is technically acting as the solo AP of BLG's composition. I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes full-on bomber up against NIP, as he is going to really depend on those item spikes in these bushes. But we do have a relatively standard start, both junglers with the red, but Yagao putting this ward on the Raptor is going to spot out Shadow, and I feel like that is definitely something teams need to look out for up against aggressive junglers. Just to deny any gank angle from these junglers is the way to go.
Now, maybe something that we'll get to talk about a little bit later, but how do you feel about Invincible's possibilities against this Renekton from Bin? I feel like we've seen Bin be very aggressive on this pick a lot of times in the 1v1 matchup. Do you feel like it's going to end up in anything to upend a little bit of the other side of the match?
It depends on where the junglers path, but in an isolated matchup, the Renekton should find a slight lead until Invincible gets that all-out, or at least the heal cut that will kind of cut down on the Gorge Ring that Bin so desperately relies on. But I can't talk too much about Bin's Renekton. He had that one clip of the outplay at the Nexus, so he's an absolute monster. And I wouldn't be surprised if he just pulled something out of his pocket, man.
He put a little Twitter video out on his English Twitter. I thought it was hilarious because it was just clips of him popping off. But Elk maybe wants to get some clips of himself popping off as he gets pretty aggressed by Photic and Zhuo. The level 2s had come across. Those 2v2s are going to kick up a little bit.
Did have to burn the Ignite out of Zhuo though, but he has full push control.
Nice double headbutt there, or double pulverize rather. And Photic gets locked down though by On. Can't get the damage onto Elk. But it is Zhuo and Photic going super ham down here and pushing this wave in.
The Shadow is around the side now. The ward is going to spot out this Wukong, but Elky has the Flash Avail, no pots, so he's only going to be 200 HP, losing out on 3 waves.
Oh,
this is really well played by NIP.
That's so good, and they knew where to strike early. They had the pathing going bot lane. They had the hover down there as well from Angel, and that mobility early and the early antics lead to NIP having some pressure. Well, it's nothing you can physically write home about right now in terms of a lead. You just have a little bit of that give on the map now for Ninjas in Pyjamas as Bin, that's an extra tower shot there, buddy. You gotta be careful. You're about to get first blooded by Invincible.
Doesn't even have flash. Nah, Invincible doesn't commit to the Q3. Because we didn't have Xun showing towards that bottom side counter, so he was just kind of respecting the Maokai around his lane. I honestly would have just gone for a Bin. Taking 2 tower shots there is completely illegal, but the wave is in a really good state for Invincible to freeze on.
Gonna be actually a really nice little moment up there. We'll see if it gets capitalized on as Bin still playing with the dice here a little bit. On the opposite side, we do have a redeploy from Xun onto the bottom side. We have our first dragon coming up in about 40 seconds. Would wonder if the team, at least for BLG, want to put some emphasis around these early objectives with how much zone control they will have as time goes on.
Yeah, especially if you take a look at the vision control that NIP has been able to secure from that initial pressure onto Elk, losing out on 3 waves, especially having the call getting picked up now that is going to hurt a little bit. But it should be fine as long as these flashes don't get burned out of the BLG roster. But you already see the Alistar taking complete control over the Rel in the laning phase, as Rel is going to really struggle trying to get her CC onto Photic, while Alistar gets to do whatever he wants.
You know, I'm all about story time, and so maybe we'll have a little bit of story time here. But specifically, I find the duality and the paths of Shadow and Xun to be so very interesting, right? Xun came from IG, where he was literally sitting between the Shy and Rookie, and they couldn't find success. He's like literally trying to pull the train together as Spider-Man, and it just wasn't working. Shadow found success on Mad Lions in EU, and now I wouldn't say he has found success in LPL, but we start seeing the tick up. This NIP, this split, has been a different beast. And I think it comes off a lot of the feelings and a lot of the emotion that they're riding off of, and also through Shadow. Yeah,
I've been kind of praising this version of NIP in the summer, where replacing Angel from Pal and Dream, of course, in the mid lane, where we did see a bit of subbing in and out for that roster. Didn't work out for them, but I feel like Angel is just able to kind of sync up with Shadow so much better, given the current meta. And I just want to bring it back to BLG, because you already said that BLG, Xun in particular, didn't find that much success on IG, but that's what makes BLG such a lovable team, because we have Elk, we have Xun, who didn't find too much success before joining BLG, but they've been able to challenge some of the best teams at the MSI tournament, and even take down the LCK teams with minimum experience compared to the other players that we have in the league.
Yeah, it's been an incredible rise for BLG, and while all split, they've been eyeing JDG saying, we might come second to them. I think they have gotten their own strengths, and maybe you can't lose 6 or 7 times in a row. Specifically, I think BLG, though. I don't want to bring back the nightmares, but they exist, all right? They exist. They're there. They haunt them. But I don't think anything's really haunted BLG in this game particularly. You already see a lot of the strengths being put forth by their composition. A lot of the poke that Yagao has already been putting down 7 minutes in the game, and there's not even a need for this early objective contest.
Yep, the magical number is 2 for both Elk and Yagao to work towards those item spikes, while Photic, they are just waiting for level 6 as they are going to look for setup around this major objective of this Inferno Dragon. But I still wanted to talk about how I feel like this NIP roster, there has been a bit of inconsistency considering Invincible and Shadow's performances in the recent weeks, but that's what NIP thrive off. They love forcing these 5v5s, and this is their opportunity.
Exactly, and they have Angel coming around, but Yagao has already found a flank. He takes about half his health, but Zhuo goes in. That's a big engage. They got the charm down too, but they don't have the damage to follow it up just yet. Photic is finally here, but here comes Angel to try to shut down Shun. They do get back and forth, but First Blood had gone over to Elk, and that's actually pretty big. He's got red and white now too. He's trying to reset. No, you overextended, Photic. The hammer doesn't come down fast enough as he's able to flash, but this should be a chase down. Shadow wants it. Shadow's going back in. He just needs a kill. He can't get it, and it's a wipe as BLG steam ahead.
That's gonna feel really bad for the side of NIP. Photic just wanted to utilize his stacked up lethal tempo to go for a little bit of a longer trade, but not realizing On still had his flash alongside Yagao and even killing Shadow alongside that way. But great start for BLG.
2 kills for Elk. You're riding high right now. As we're going to take a look at this one, this was set up by Angel trying to collapse, but Yagao just sets the difference, and Zhuo tries.
And the entire Ari combo goes onto a Alistair, so it's not that well. It goes onto Shun, so it's not that valuable. While the DPS of BLG is pretty much free hitting, especially considering the fact that Elk had red and white. But this overextension from Photic just didn't notice that On had the flash available, was a little bit overstepped from this Ashe, and that's what makes Ashe so vulnerable. She doesn't have the mobility once you do make these mistakes, and you have to pretty much space glide every single team fight perfectly. As Shadow unfortunately had to tag along with Photic.
Will say, I did like, I know it's something small, and maybe it's just me, glass half full, but I love the fact that Photic and Shadow turned around. Right in that moment, you're like, okay, Photic just said, I'm going to die anyways. Let's just try to get something back. And that's the kind of togetherness you like to see, even if it didn't work out early on. But want to see that continue here. As just because there's some kills given out on the map doesn't mean you get to slow down. I think for NIP, that bar of execution just got a little bit higher.
And now Elk sitting on those 2 kills and 71 CS, rotating all 5 people towards this Rift Herald. Photic, you need to push in that wave, at least get some place into your pockets, because you're going to be way too late to contest this major objective. But BLG using the tempo from that previous Dragon fight and resetting perfectly.
On wants it. Magnet Storm in, and Elk's got the guns for it. The Calibrum comes out, so he's got the distance, and there you go. Sniper shot for Elk, gets the kill. A wide enchanted crystal arrow won't be enchanting anything this time around. BLG continue to strike.
On engaged supports is just way too scary to deal with. I have his statistics open here. He has a 73% win rate on his most played, which is Rakan, but the champion he's on for tonight's first game, the Rel, he also has a 70% win rate on it over 17 games. So man knows what he's doing once he pulls that ultimate button.
He does indeed, and it shows off right there the first and foremost decision-making power that he has on this champion, but also just the instinct to go for it. That's what I have loved so much about On, right? Where we have seen this young guy who was the youngest in our league just last split really mold himself into one of our premier, especially engaged-centered supports. I think we've really seen it come up from this guy paired along with Elk, a long time coming on his own.
And I love the fact that BLG, after losing their spring finals up against JDG, they noticed that On was really struggling with piloting champions like the Lulu, and they just instantly prepared for that pick for the MSI tournament, and they went all the way to the MSI finals. And I don't know if I want to mention it, but losing up against JDG once again, it really does seem like they are BLG's kryptonite of 2023, but hopefully, I mean, they still have half a year to go on. Maybe there's a chance, but it feels like when you do look at this team up against JDG, they just seem to have a mental block. It's not the BLG that we know. They don't play as freely, especially coming out of On. So hopefully they do get to adjust, as we have a lot of banger games waiting for us in the playoffs.
We do, and speaking of banger game, we still got this one right in front of us, where NIP trying to give a little bit of a tussle back to BLG. We don't have much to fight for, but we got movement. And TP actually coming out from Bin as he completes that Gore Drinker. Are looking at a lot of mobility from NIP. It's just about how to connect that together, and where Shun is going to go ahead and use this Rift Herald next.
We do have items getting picked up by Yagao and Angel. The Everfrost for the Ahri relatively standard, playing more utility based, as BLG have a lot of melee champions, but Photic going the Kraken Slayer build, so he has to space these team fights perfectly, but without the flash, it is going to be quite the struggle. In NIP, at least someone needs to be playing front to back with this Ashe, and not everyone has to go in and dive, but it is going to be dependent on how Angel is going to be able to play around Photic for this game one.
Goodness gracious. One accelerated shock blast and a Rift Herald delivery right into Yagao's pockets. That's a ton of gold already given over to a Dustblade Mr. Jace. See another shot trying to go there, but he does not end up connecting. But because of all that pressure from mid lane, he can actually move Shun down here to the bottom side, as we do see Shadow on his way as well.
Mazal, I just wanted to point out that Photic not going the Berserker Greaves is so greedy here. You have very little movement speed, considering the fact that you're versing Arel and Maokai, where you desperately need to be kiting them perfectly with those autos. Photic has the flash here.
Nature's Grasp is coming out right now. Shun is going for the engage on, taking the brunt of damage, but there's a TP coming in from Angel. Shadow has snuck in here, but it actually looks like, oh, snipe! No, it's not enough! With that Unbreakable, it's too much damage to be resisted, as both teams just giving each other blows in the bot lane.
That is going to be double Summoner's Burn from Elk, though, as Photic walks away with his own.
Oh, the flash comes through, and Elk is just gone. A shutdown goes straight to Photic.
They never expect the monkey in the bush, but that is going to result in a kill going over to the side of NIP, and a really good follow-up, taking consideration that Elk had to burn both of his flash and cleanse, as Yagao, he really needed that shock blast to land onto Photic to at least burn the flash out of the AD carry of NIP, but a relatively decent result considering how it started.
Indeed, as you'll take that gold all day long for Photic. We do see the noodle fight going on top side. Actually on a bit of a robe up here. Okay, I like it. To get this vision down, to make sure that when the redeploy comes through for Shadow, they know exactly where he's headed towards. As we look back at this play, it all started onto Elk.
And Shun going in with the roots as well, just locking down Photic, but they didn't really have enough damage to kill off Zhuo, as Elk just solo ulted the Alistar, but the shock blast missing from Photic. BLG kind of played this fight all over the place. We have Elk solo engaging with the Gravitum as well, as he was going to switch out on the guns, but Shadow using his vision control really well, and this is what we were talking about for NIP. They need to play of individual picks and work with them. The mobility that Angel has in his kit.
You see both Angel and Shadow knowing what was going on together and all opting into that play, right? That flash instant charm connecting after the Cyclone, that needed to be there. And that's the kind of cohesion you like to see, right? We set this mid-jungle duo up to be so important for an IP, and we haven't necessarily found fruition on that just yet. We are still looking at these two item spikes maybe coming through, but now that we have primary items on pretty much everybody here across the table, we're now looking at next objectives where BLG might have that strength.
Elk does have the Gale Force here though, so he does have an extra bit of mobility when it comes to the engage of NIP, but I feel like everyone should still have their eyes kept out for Yagao on this Jace, as he is constantly finding these shock blasts onto NIP, so they need to pull the trigger quick before they get poked down before this Dragon 2 starts.
See if they can get some positioning around here. BLG playing a little bit finicky. The headbutt comes through, pushes on over the wall. Dragon started up now by Invincible and Angel, and IP will move into position.
Yeah, Photic looking for an angle with that Crysted Arrow though. Can he land onto one of the carries is going to be key.
So that will just be the Dragon taking even with a little bit of a scare there. As BLG want to go in on the engage after they're moving out. And Shadow, you're just dead as they pick out the jungler after the objective were picked out as well. BLG, nice little pounce.
And without the jungler alive for the side of NIP, it's another free Rift Herald going over towards BLG. And especially with On placing down that vision control from earlier towards the top side, NIP can't really walk into here.
I love that they're trying to kill an Alistar who's ulted right now. Because I just want to see how much damage I do, okay? I just want to test the numbers a little bit. As they won't be able to take down the cow, but they will be able to take that Rift Herald you were highlighting.
All right, observers, we don't need to look at top side. It's been 17 minutes and both top
Our
laners
observers
are 0,
love
0,
top
0.
side, all right? Don't you tell them. they don't care what's happening up there. All right, it could be nothing. There could be no top laners in top lane. They'd probably still be there.
You know, people complain about how K'Sante is really overtuned and boring to watch because of how he's been meta ever since his introduction into League of Legends. Okay, we'll get a replay of what happened from On's POV, just catching Shadow out on that ward as it did just get cleared by Photic. Just having really decisive picks brings them back into the game. Although NIP is slowly dragon stacking, BLG, they are going to reach their item spikes a lot earlier and can potentially force huge 5v5s that will just result in them forcing a Baron at around that 20-minute mark. We'll have to wait and see. Once again, K'Sante, I mean, people complain about this champion being extremely overtuned, has too much CC, unkillable, but he is one of the more fun tanks to witness in a fridge versus fridge matchup.
I would agree, especially with his late game antics. There's some crazy stuff that can be pulled off, but now I'm looking at specifically what BLG want on the map. They still have the Rift Herald in tow. They still have towers to break down. Maybe the mid and top a little bit worse for wear and try to get some of a guaranteed bit of first tower gold for somebody here, but they are fully positioning around this mid lane. There is no dragon to speak of. There is nothing. They just know that they can control and pressure NIP here.
And it's so scary knowing the fact that Yagao is letting these blind shock blasts onto Zhuo consistently. But once again, with that tier 1 tower gone from the equation, BLG just going to secure some vision towards this top side with Bin just feasting on this tower. But
Yum,
that's
yum, 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 yum,
tier 1. Yum, 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 yum. That's 2 tier 1 towers gone. The flash out of Shun.
Yeah, just like that, and the gold lead explodes to almost 5,000. We do see a 1v1 at the top side. Let's see whose noodles are a little bit softer than the other. The pool noodle fight continues as NIP. No, you're not allowed to do this. They are having fun in the pool. You're not allowed to intervene. Nah, somebody tell them. All right, okay. But NIP do get a kill back, and it is a pick off onto the side lane, onto Bin, and a shutdown going over. So maybe not as much of a pool noodle fight as they wanted.
Look, I'm sure Bin is more than happy. That is both the Spirit Rush and the all-out burnout from NIP, and all tier 1 towers gone for the side of NIP. And considering the fact that they have to play up these picks, they have to play up these potential side lane picks because BLG want to execute a 1-3-1. I mean, just the vision control is going to become a huge problem that Zhuo won't be able to secure. What happened in the mid lane?
I was going to say, did you see the... So, Elk uses Gale Force to try to get a grab it to Brock onto Photic, but just gives them the thumbs up. Oh my goodness,
Good
maybe
flash.
need a thumbs up from Yagao. Are you okay, man? As Shadow picks him out of the side lane, and NIP just starting to find some big picks in the big moments.
All right, BLG, I'ma need you to settle down in the side lane because they just got off 2 picks for the side of NIP and a really good flash charm coming out of Angel as well. And this is why this is Angel's most played in the summer. But with the dragon spawning in 50 seconds, we have the Manamune coming online for Yagao and double items picked up by Elk. So BLG, they're looking to fight this.
We'll see now as everybody's on their way. We do want to see some vision be put down right now. BLG do have full control of that, but you see everyone from NIP will be here for this fight. This is sole point for them, and also just a lot of decision-making power around the map. But you do look at that gold, and you see a mighty difference as the power tools of Yagao and Elk are ready to go.
Thinking because NIP, they need to play off these charms from Angel, but potentially Invincible can look for a flank with the Ola and bring either Elk or Yagao into the whole mix of everything for Photic to get in range of. But there's absolutely no vision whatsoever. Zhuo is so low. What's happening?
All out gets used. Bin tries to get out. He does get the flash. He makes it out alive. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow will not hit. as On actually takes the brunt of it. Zhuo trying to get in for a headbutt pulverize, but can't find the distance. And the saplings are doing work on the back end with the demonic embrace as well. And IP, they're feeling a little bit antsy. They feel like they need to do something. They're starting up the dragon.
Double TB available for both top laners though as they look for the reset. We have
NIP
a
do
green
not
and
need to
white
fight
and elk
this.
though.
Feel like they could just leave it. They just walk away. Maybe they do want some fisticuffs here as another accelerated shock blast connects. Shadow tries to go in, can't get it. Shun connects, and that's also a slow. And the engage from On. The Moonlight Vigil does go wide, but a charm connects in the end onto Shun. You see the TP from Invincible coming to mid lane, and it is a carousel of a fight here. But BLG, they're moving in. They got Shun on the back here looking for these saplings as so much poke can come down from this team comp. And this is not the kind of position you want to be in for NIP.
NIP need to defuse this as fast as possible. Baron is up and available. They can't lose a single member. BLG honestly just going to start the Baron because NIP have no help to contest for this. Shadow's so low.
You can't get your feet set if you never have a chance. As On looking for it, but gets caught out before he can. Spirit Rush from Angel's actually pretty big, but they can't get anybody as Elk just guns down Invincible. Angel still on the side, still has a Spirit Rush. Photic has finally joined and might be able to shred down Ben. Photic gets one, but they re-engage, and Elk's damage from the Inferno is so big. And BLG chasing down Photic. He's left out as lonesome by his team, and now they're just getting picked apart one by one. NIP, Shadow, and Angel. This is the duo. They need to try to get out of here.
But the remaining two members of NIP, BLG played that fight so slow and played around Elk as well. Who's collecting these two final kills?
No. Elk is taken out in the end by Shadow, but it'll be a quick turnaround for Yagao to come join. And he should get his third kill of the game.
All right, well, I just said BLG's so good and Elk died, so maybe I cursed it. But what a successful turn from the side of BLG, and it all starts with On using the Hex Flash and dodging out on Angel's Charm. That is huge. And then we just have a very good front to back coming out of BLG as Angel is so disconnected from the rest of the team as well. Photic had to walk from the back of the pit as well, but BLG, all the front line is just throwing themselves to protect Elk on this Aphelios, and they're just struggling to get their hands onto this AD carry. But at the end, I mean, Shadow still got that shutdown on from Elk. So it's not too bad, but they lose all tempo to ever contest for this Baron.
And, you know, I'm going to be a little bit introspective for NIP here as well. We have, speaking of not being on the same page, I was going to say, it seems like NIP in these fights get lost a little bit because they seem like they have a good plan going into the initial fight. But then by the end of it, you know, Photic's getting caught out by himself. You have a completely split fight from Shadow and Angel trying to find a way in. And I think these are things that can be looked at for NIP, but right now they got to look towards this Baron pit because Invincible almost gets picked off in the side, but the Baron is being melted right now by BLG.
Angel has the flash available though, no cleanse on Elk.
That wild growth was actually so big with the Nature's Grasp, rather, as, okay, no, as Zhuo, not going to have any health to speak of as the Unbreakable will not save him today. BLG go right back onto the Baron. Clear a lot of this vision, but there's not much of a fight left to give for NIP as Photic takes a quarter of his health from one accelerated shock blast. And honestly, I would love to get a replay of that fight because that Nature's Grasp was actually so big to counter what NIP were trying to do. But speaking of, I don't think they can counter this Baron unless Shadow wants to fight for it. There goes the purple capes onto BLG's white jerseys, and you do still have BLG chasing down the rest of NIP.
It's insane to think that On single-handedly zoned out 3 members of NIP while the rest of BLG just finished off that Baron. Arel versus Shadow, and Shadow didn't return a single Q as he was just denied any access towards this Baron. Now with the Dragon spawning in 1 minute, NIP, I don't know if they have what it takes to contest for this because you already see that Angel, he has to play a core role from those charms, from those picks alongside Shadow, but the front to back ability is just too insane from BLG. The Q3 knocked Bin over the wall, by the way, so that's pretty interesting to consider, but look at this TP from Angel. He gets instantly rooted by Shun and destroyed with the chakrams in Elk's hand, and that burns both the dash and the flash out of pretty much NIP's main engage. And Zhuo, I mean, there's a reason why Alistair is less preferred compared to Rel. Once you go in, you can't go out.
Yeah, you either live to tail as a bull or you get turned into hamburger meat. Speaking of, though, Ben
Crocodile meat?
try not get turned into some crocs here as the Enchanted Crystal Arrow will go a bit wide. I feel so bad for Photic. He just can't find a big one yet. And it is BLG who make it out alive with a TP from Yagao.
At least we don't have Ashe support in the meta anymore. 20-second arrows. So it doesn't matter if you miss one, but this time it's going to be a 60-second arrow. And Photic by himself in the mid lane, he has no right whatsoever walking up, especially when On has that flash available. We need to keep our eyes out for this rel because he's going to find some nasty angles onto NIP.
Ben, he just hit 3/4 of the turret's health without even wanting to, without even trying. And the tower's just gone in the end of that. Dragon is up, but it's not something BLG need to play for. They have a minute till this Baron buff goes down, and they have all the strength in the world.
And Angel doesn't have the flash available. He has to look his handle at
Oh,
Yagao.
he tries to go for it. Look at the counter from On, though. It's so big. He's in the wrong side of the wall, though, as it's Angel already picked out on the side. Elk is trying to get him down. Beautiful connection there, as Shun will be way to him, way too deep. He gets a nice little bramble smash there, buys a lot of time as Elk and Yagao have been farming the wave, and it was the tower that was going down to them and the rest of the team to bin. So that means BLG get the inhib. They do lose 2, but they have done lasting damage to NIP.
The willingness of BLG's frontline to just throw themselves at the enemy team because they know that they can always rely on Yagao and Elk's consistent damage when it comes to these major 5v5s, but they are going to be picking up this second Mountain Dragon into their pockets as they reset and now work towards that mid lane. But this Jace is a huge problem for NIP to deal with. They don't have the range, especially with Yagao sitting on 3 items with this Herald is finished off as well. That's where you really consider the fact that Photic picking this Ashe, was it really worth it? But we need to look at just the shock blast value out of Yagao. Although the charm initially hits, On just throws himself in and gives a leeway for Yagao to escape as they do trade support for mid laner, so it's not too bad. But this final one onto Photic, and then Shun commits the flash. How do you play the game as Ashe, man?
The fact that Nature's Grass connected through 3 members, even though they were all so close together there, is insane. And there's just nothing left, right? You've already used everything, it feels like, from Photic. And they got the inhib after that one. Now they also got that second dragon for themselves, a second Mountain Dragon to speak. And they're pushing down top lane. Maybe a catch out on a Ben, though, as he does have dominance. He'll be able to survive a decent amount of time, but BLG are on their way. They want to come save him. Invincible is trying to get the kills here before anything else can happen, but Zhuo gets caught out here a little bit as Angel is in some trouble too. They're trying to pick out the combo of On and Elk, but Elk is fighting back. He's got a little bit of mad Elk disease, but he goes down in the end as Photic is still alive, but ends up dying to a smite, I believe, or a sapling of Shun. And this is just wonderful chaos that BLG have opted into. They are not getting out of this one alive, but Shun might find more as he gets 1 kill back. He's got the bramble smash. The saplings are doing work. He has got some AP, and he's making it work. My go jungler! Can he make it happen? No! Maokai is not strong enough, my friend, as NIP will fight back.
That is probably the best fight that NIP is going to find in this game, as Bin gets initially called out 1v3 in the top side, and I honestly thought Elk was just going to instantly one-shot Photic with the red and white, but that wasn't the case, so we need to check this Ophelia because I really thought this was still BLG's fight to take, but Shun, as the last remaining member, not being able to find those saplings in the bush was a pain.
Not enough AP.
We see this fight starting, the all-out onto Bin, as Bin was just genuinely caught out, as we didn't have everyone rotate. Look at Shun's positioning. He was just barely out of base and halfway to the fight, while Angel missed everything, but it didn't really matter because NIP had complete vision control of the singular bush, and I think that made the difference for Elk to continue autoing. But the Q blast, everything missed as well. I'm sad.
Just saying, there's a reason why this man has been an all-pro ADC before, why V5 had a lot of success piloted by him. Photic still's got those mechanics, man. But in the end, it was just BLG that took a very zealous fight.
Baron's also up in around 20 seconds, and especially with those supers pushing in the bottom side, NIP, they need to deal with that straight away before they start forcing something towards this top side, but no vision control whatsoever. And the Merle and Omicron and Demonic is going to do quite a lot of damage with that first strike as well for Shun on the Maokai. So we'll have to wait and see, but it does seem like they need to kill off Yagao extremely fast if they want to contest for this.
See how much contesting can be had here. Did get level 16 just completed for Elk as well, but we do see BLG actually moving with a lot of the vision around the left side of red from NIP. They'll just start up the Baron here. In NIP, they are now needing to make something happen.
But On has the flash available on Rel, so NIP, they're extremely split right now. And the wave is slowly pushing towards the side of BLG, but this is just why BLG is a top team. They're willing to dance with the idea of Baron, but never commit to it. They don't want any way of NIP coming back into this game. They are still in the lead. They can potentially look for the third Mountain Soul, but they will just consistently pressure NIP into a choke point where they aren't able to deal with the side lanes, and the wave, considering the bottom lane still having supers in it.
A little bit difficult to deal with, especially with that cross map pressure here, but BLG consistently putting a lot of vision control around this Baron pit to force the hand of NIP. I will also say we're getting very close to 4th item spikes for Yagao, and now already for Elk as he completes the Bloodthirster.
And also has his GA now, so he isn't going to get instantly shut down by the side of NIP, as they have been playing relatively well considering the front to back composition. But Photic, you can't be too far up there. I'm getting scared for this Ashe.
Got 3 item spike. You're feeling good, feeling confident there, I guess. But you got to be a little bit careful because the one fell swoop and BLG wins the game. As Shadow waiting around the corner. Can he be a big difference? On wants to go for it. But they didn't know that Angel and Shadow were here, but now they do. And now they feel like they've just pulled the rug over NIP as Zhuo actually has to use his ulti, and BLG are sitting fine right here in the mid lane. They could just go right back to the Baron pit.
The Invincible had to clear out the wave in the bottom lane, but the inhibitor has respawned. But On once again solo zoning out the entirety of NIP. It's illegal to be doing this. I mean, Angel just flash charmed this guy.
Can't do it. Don't have the confidence here in game number 1, but they will have the confidence to go for that dragon trade. So this will be soul point for them and their first mountain dragon of the game. And BLG on the other side get a Baron, which should end up in a lot of sieging power towards this top side, and something that NIP need to respond to.
We do have resets coming out. Yagao does have the TP available, so he's just going to come back to here instantly. While Bin, he's getting wrapped around.
He's a scary
Shadow?
croc. I think Shadow might be the one that's in a little bit of trouble. Luckily, his clone takes the sapling there. But the siege continues as the tier 2 tower had already fallen top side. NIP struggling to find that answer right now, but you see they're looking. As speaking of looking, Elk, you look and you miss it. He just got that kill on a Photic like it was nothing. And now NIP, desperate to find any answers, are grasping at straws, but the straws are crumbling in their hands. There's nothing left in game number 1 for them to hold on to. As NIP were dusted from the start, BLG will smash them down.
Name a more iconic duo. LPL 80 carries and one-shotting with the Gale Force available on Affiliates. Photic deleted out of existence. But this game was always BLG's one to take, and they clean it off with style.
Look at the smiles on their faces. You know they're having a good time while they do it as well. It was a composition that we felt was a very good one for them. The bar of execution not as high as it was needed on the side of NIP.